Alright guys, so Rogue just dropped the ECHOBIKE out of nowhere and it took everybody by surprise. The moment that I saw it, I immediately purchased it. I knew I had to have it. I actually woke up that morning ready to buy a Concept 2 bike erg, but being an affiliate owner, I own CrossFit 805 in Simi Valley, California. I didn't know how the bike erg would mesh in with the rest of the assault bikes that I had, the ZebX bikes. And at least the Rogue ECHOBIKE has the arm functionality like the assault bike and the ZebX bikes. So it's a little bit more similar. It would mesh a little bit better even if it didn't count calories the exact same. Now, first things first, the Rogue ECHOBIKE is a beast. If you look at it, the build quality is just amazing. The first thing that you'll notice from putting it together is that, man, they really over-engineered this piece of equipment. Another thing about this is that the ECHOBIKE is not made in Taiwan like the assault bike or the ZebX bikes. It's made in China. So you at least there know that it's not made in the same spot as the assault and the ZebX bikes. So it's a little different in the manufacturing. So we're going to take a walkthrough around the ECHOBIKE. I'm going to tell you what I like about it, and then I'm going to tell you what I don't quite like about it, because there are a couple things that I don't necessarily agree with or like on the Rogue bike. At the end of this video, we'll go over what I think about this bike, who I think it's going to be best suited for, and whether or not I think it's going to replace the assault bike in the CrossFit games. So now I'm going to get behind the camera and we're going to go over the ECHOBIKE. Alright, so there she is, guys, the Rogue ECHOBIKE. And the first thing you're going to notice is obviously just how big the Rogue bike is in comparison to the assault bike. The weight of the Rogue bike is 145 pounds. The height is 52.75 inches. The length is a touch under 59 inches, and that's from the front of the fan all the way to the furthest seating position. The width at its widest point, which are going to be the handles, is 29 7/8 inches. The footprint, 44.5 inches by 23.75 inches. And overall, just much more beefy bike. It actually looks a little bit more high quality, looks really cool in my opinion. And I really like having something like this in my gym as compared to something that looks like this in my gym. The design just looks a lot better, a lot more high quality. The Rogue does have wheels that move it around the gym, but in my experience, the Rogue is just way harder to get around the gym because it is also heavier than the assault bikes, and it's a lot harder to get leverage to tilt the Rogue bike over than it is on the assault air bike. There are pegs to put your feet at rest with the Rogue bike, but on the Rogue, they spin. So you don't really get all that much rest when you're trying to. Now, obviously, the steel is just way nicer. The tubing is way nicer. The powder coating is way nicer. The handle diameter is slightly thicker than it is on the assault bikes, but it's just very slightly thicker. The seating position on the Rogue is a little bit different. This is as close as I could get it. On the assault bike, I ride at the 4 and with the seat pushed all the way forward. Whereas on the Rogue, I am at the 3rd position with the seat as far as how much forward or backwards you can push it. And then the height is right about the same thing. It's at the 4, though I feel like I am a little bit lower still on the Rogue than the assault bike. It's harder to get over the handles on the Rogue than it is on the assault bike. So that's a little bit different when it comes down to the riding experience. If you like to push a lot with your arms, it's much harder to do with the Rogue than it is on the assault bike. Now, the big difference between these two bikes is that the Rogue uses a belt drive, which should require less maintenance over time as compared to the chain drive on the assault bike, which does require a little bit of maintenance, but it's tried and true, and it's pretty easy to replace one of those things, whereas I have absolutely no clue how to replace the belt, or if you can replace the belt on the Rogue bike. So that's one thing to take in consideration. Now, another thing that I don't really like about the Rogue bike is this knob right here is pretty crappy, and it doesn't really stay. It's really hard to adjust it. It feels like it's gonna fall out. I don't know if that's just mine, but that's one thing to take in consideration, that this is not that great, whereas the Assault works really well. Now, the Assault has a smaller seat than the Rogue does, but that's honestly not really a big deal. I thought the Assault was just fine, though the Rogue's is definitely more comfortable than the Assault is. The difference between pedaling on the Rogue and pedaling on the Assault is that the Rogue is obviously way more smooth. It's way more quiet. It doesn't really make any kind of noise. You can listen to music over it. It's just a really nice and refined ride as compared to the more rough ride and more loud ride of the Assault Air bike. So that's one thing to take in consideration. If you're going to be using this at home, the Rogue is going to be way more quiet than the Assault bike is. I guess in the affiliate setting, it doesn't really matter all that much though. Now, the Rogue's fan is obviously much bigger than the Assault bike's fan is, but the Rogue bike also has a smoother operation because it is belt drive. So it kind of balances each other out. Smoother operation, though the wind resistance is for sure greater on the Rogue. And then on the Assault bike, rougher operation because of the chain drive, but the fan is smaller overall. So it honestly kind of just balances each other out, though I feel like it is harder to get calories on the Rogue compared to the Assault bike. They're pretty close, but like I said, I think it is a little bit harder to get calories on the Rogue bike than the Assault bike. But that also might come down to the handlebar position as well, because you can't get the same kind of leverage on the Rogue bike that you can on the Assault bike. I feel like I can get over these handles a little bit more, so I can use my upper body a little bit more than my legs. The Rogue's screen is just way nice. It's clean. There's buttons laid out really easily. The Assault bikes I never really had any issues with. It has everything that you need. I thought the buttons were a little bit cheap, but it has everything that you need on it. Now, one thing that I really like about the Rogue is that's one thing I dislike about the Rogue, is that no matter what, there's this 3-second countdown, which is a huge flaw in my opinion, because when you're trying to get going, there's always a 3-second countdown, which is terrible. But what I do like about the Rogue is that it has a value for miles per hour. There's your watts, RPMs, distance, time, calories, and then you can also hook up an external heart rate monitor to the Rogue if you wanted that as well. Overall, I think that the Rogue's monitor is just way more clean than the Assault's monitor, but like I said, it has that huge flaw in that countdown when you're coming and starting on to the Rogue bike, which is ridiculous. They need to get rid of that. Now, between these two bikes, where and who would I recommend them to? Now, if you're using this bike for your home gym, just get the Rogue. It's just way nicer. If you have the space for it, which honestly it doesn't really take up that much more space, get the Rogue, hands down. It's just a way nicer piece of equipment than the Assault Air Bike is. It doesn't retail for that much more either. Now, if you're an affiliate owner and you don't have Assault bikes, I'm going to say get the Rogue bike, and maybe just like one Assault bike if you have like a games athlete or if you have games hopefuls, so that they can practice on the Assault bike. To be honest with you, the functions between the two bikes is not that much different. Like I said, the Rogue does count calories, maybe a slight bit slower than the Assault bikes does, but it's not that much of a difference. The functionality feels the same. The riding experience for the most part feels exactly the same. So if you're an affiliate owner and you're trying to decide between the two, I'm going to say go for the Rogue because it's just way nicer, but maybe have an Assault bike there as well. Now, if you're an affiliate owner and you have a ton of Assault bikes and you're thinking, hey man, should I switch over to the Rogue ECHOBIKE? That one isn't as clear-cut of an answer as if you're starting fresh. Being an affiliate owner, I could not imagine replacing all of the Assault bikes that I had with ECHOBIKEs because that would just be a huge expense that you don't really need to do. Even though the Rogue is a much nicer bike, from here on out I would say maybe invest in the Rogues, but otherwise you don't need to be replacing your Assault bikes with the Rogue bike, just because you're going to be spending a lot of money and it might not be worth it. Okay, so now do I think that they're going to be replacing the Assault bike with the ECHOBIKE at the games or the regional level? And I got to be honest with you guys and say that I definitely do think that they're going to replace the Assault bike with the ECHOBIKE, because why wouldn't they? The ECHOBIKE would just cost Rogue a whole lot less money than stocking up on a, say, third-party product, which would be the Assault bike, whereas the Rogue bike, they're getting manufactured directly for them. Even though, like I said before, the calorie counts are a little bit different, if you put a games athlete on the ECHOBIKE, you put them on the Assault bike, you put them on the AD Pro, you put them on a Bike-Erg, and you say, go to 50 calories, they're gonna do that. And no matter what, the Rogue bikes, the Assault bikes, at least they function in the same fashion as compared to the Bike-Erg, which is a little bit different, and the Schwinn, which counts calories completely different. Those are just my thoughts, and I have absolutely no clue whether or not they will or not replace the Assault bike with the Rogue bike, but that's just what I think on that matter. Now, I just wanted to go over some of the key differences between the ECHOBIKE and the Assault bike in this review. I'm going to come back to you guys with a little bit more of a performance-oriented review on the ECHOBIKE. But as of right now, I'm going to say when they restock on the ECHOBIKEs and you're looking for a bike, just buy the ECHOBIKE. It's just way nicer. If you guys have any questions between these two bikes, feel free to leave them in the comment section. As always, guys, please hit that like button, subscribe, and thanks for watching.